So in today's video, I wanted to talk about the current state of where the Star Trek franchise is at this point, from Star Trek Discovery to the upcoming Jean-Luc Picard series and the collapse of the fourth J.J. Abrams Trek movie. There's plenty to get into here. Before we begin this video, it's time for a word from our sponsor, Vikings War of Clans. This is a free-to-play MMO strategy game available for iOS and Android, and it very much reminds me of 90s strategy games like Civilization. What makes this game so immersive and compelling is the 20 million online players who continue to change the way the game evolves in their never-ending fight for resources, forging alliances, and competing in live events. If you like tactical combat games that are easy to pick up, boast stunning detailed graphics, and have enormous scope for strategic warfare, you'll love Vikings War of Clans. Support my channel by downloading Vikings for free using my links in the description box and get the special bonus of 200 gold coins and a protective shield. In addition, there's also contests being held in which you could win some awesome prizes. This month, Vikings is holding a contest in which you could win 4 drones. 3 DJI Spark drones worth $400 to those who reach the 10th level, and 1 Phantom drone worth $800 to those who reach the highest level in the game. The contest will be held at the beginning of October on the Instagram page for Vikings. You'll find the link to it below in the description box. So guys, help to support this channel by downloading Vikings War of Clans for free from the link below. First up, I've read that the original Star Trek The Next Generation cast apparently haven't been asked to take part in the new Picard series. I find that quite odd, honestly, because clearly the opportunity to reunite even some of the cast would potentially be a major ratings grabber, if for nothing else. Instead, the show seems to want to focus primarily on Picard himself, which is fine, though I still expect cameos from the TNG cast, so we can learn about what's been happening in their characters' lives since Nemesis. The fourth Star Trek film in the J.J. Abrams Trek franchise looks to have hit the skids after both Chris Pine and Chris Hemsworth pulled out of the project recently. Apparently, this was because management now want to scale back the budget for the next installment, and that meant reducing the salaries for the actors, so they both pulled out. I can understand the issue here, but this is really the fault of the culture and business model of Hollywood blockbusters. These massive big-budget bonanzas are just becoming ridiculously expensive to make, with budgets for films for the likes of Star Trek Beyond. It's about $185 million, I think, to make that film, and it only pulled in $343 million at the box office. Now, clearly that's still a lot of money, but it's not the kind of profit margin that investors want to achieve. Now, Solo, a Star Wars story, cost $275 million to make and only raked in less than $400 million. Studios now have to figure out a way to reduce budgets, curb the wastefulness of the industry, and become much more efficient in order to maintain financial viability of these popular franchises. The out-of-control spiraling costs of these productions is not going to help them maximize their profits. It certainly doesn't help that the films themselves are fairly cookie-cutter CGI blockbusters with little to no real innovative storytelling. But all that aside, there's still room for popcorn affairs. It's just that they shouldn't cost around $250 million to make them. The Justice League, for example, cost $300 million to make, and although it managed to pull in $657 million, studios now consider a blockbuster film to be financially successful if it manages to bring in over $1 billion worldwide, or close to it. That's basically the benchmark now. Ideally, 3 to 4 times the production budget of the actual film. That's totally unreasonable. So this model is not going to be sustainable, and as a consequence, more affordable actors are going to have to be sought for these productions. Star Trek Discovery looks to be taking a slightly different, more optimistic and possibly lighthearted direction for its second season. At least, I think that's what's being suggested from the Season 2 trailer. There's still nothing about it that makes me want to tune in again. Season 1 was not a Star Trek series as far as I'm concerned, and I honestly don't think Wild Horses could drag me back to the show. But they are at least modifying the Klingon makeup to be a little bit more like that of the Klingons from 90s Star Trek. As for the Picard series, I think there's a lot of fans out there who are concerned that in this current politically correct climate and social justice culture we're living through, that some of that ideology will infest this new series as well. Almost every major long-standing sci-fi franchise has succumbed to it recently, so it's almost like fans would rather not see their old favorite TV shows return if it means they'll be vandalized in this way. Star Trek has always been a show that embraced a certain degree of political correctness, but it was always fairly low boil, and I think reasonable and tolerable in the 90s. It wasn't exclusionary. Bringing in the first female captain with Janeway was fine because Janeway was a decent character, and back then, writers wrote strong male and female characters because rabid gender ideology wasn't being pushed at that stage. Nowadays, writers tend to make male characters weak in order to make female characters seem stronger, and often make male characters the butt of the joke in some situations. In Star Trek Voyager, none of the male characters were compromised in order to make the female characters seem stronger. All of the characters, regardless of their gender, were able to stand quite strongly on their own merits. The trouble now with shows like Star Trek Discovery is that they are ramping the political correctness up to the point where the politics has become quite exclusionary, as evidenced when Aaron Habertz, co-executive producer on the series, admitted that the Klingons were a stand-in for Trump supporters, and their slogan "Remain Klingon" was meant to be similar to Trump's slogan "Make America Great Again." Star Trek may have always been political, but this was a cheap shot against basically half the American population. Let me know your thoughts on these stories and the Trek franchise as it stands, guys. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.